What's up, everyone? It's you. Welcome to The Becoming. Today I want to talk about healing the relationship with your parents and yourself, your inner child. I have this ongoing series now called Became versus Becoming that you can find on TikTok and on YouTube. But behind this Became versus Becoming philosophy is just understanding that I became someone due to what I was exposed to as a child in terms of the environments, the experiences that I had, the lessons that I had to learn, the people that I was surrounded, all the things that make up your childhood, your past, your memories, all those things. They essentially craft and cultivate who you become as a person. And so the things that I had gone through had made me become a very angry, depressed, mad person. I was very just not happy to be on earth, being frank. And so that's how I portrayed myself. That's how I walked. That's how I moved in life, and it didn't take me anywhere in life, being this angry, sad, depressed person. And so now I'm choosing to become somebody new. I'm crafting my own character from start to finish. This is something that I have not only just started working on, I've been doing it for a while, but the Became versus Becoming ideology came to me, and so I decided to just put it all together. However, I've been using a persona as Hugh, which is a form of my initials for my name, and so I decided to have my new name be Hugh because at the end of the day, when you have learned to become a certain person, it's very hard to stop being that person if you keep acting like that person, and so often, obviously, a name is attached to that person, and so creating a new persona, if you develop a new name to match that new persona, that kind of helps your brain wire that in as, this person does that. So my new name is Hugh, and Hugh, moves in this way. Hugh is slow to anger. Hugh is not reactive, things of that sort. And so, the version of me that grew up and experienced these different things in life that made me angry and depressed and sad, my original name is Harmony. I still go by that name, but my name is Harmony, but I am becoming Hugh. And so that's the name that I'm choosing to go by. With everybody that is following me on this journey, I do go by Hugh. I won't be answering to Harmony from anybody, honestly, other than the people of my past, because that's who they know me as. But moving forward, I'm becoming Hugh, and I'm being very intentional about that because, like I said, the version of that I was before was not somebody that was going to be able to exist in this world any longer. I was very, very severely depressed, had no confidence, did not like who I was at all. I was morbidly obese. There's just, the list goes on. And in order to be somebody new, I had to let go of a version of me that was, keeping me at a very low point in life. And so Hugh is the version of myself that I'm creating to be as my physical expression of my highest self. And so we all have a lower self, but we all have a higher self, and most of us are operating from our lower self because that's who we were taught to be. And so I'm choosing to become a physical expression of my higher self. And so that's who Hugh is. And so this, series, this page is going to be documenting the different things that becoming Hugh entails. It is a unfolding of my transformation, my becoming. And I know that so many other people out there are going to see my story and start their own becoming, because we all have been given a set of programs from childhood that have ran our lives and forced us to believe in limited things and have limited perspectives and not believe in the beauty and the unlimited brilliance of ourselves. We are very capable and powerful beings when we allow ourselves to be. So that is all that I'm going to be showing, is just the unfolding of me finding my way back to myself, to self-love, to my inner child, to being who I should have been and could have been before all this trauma piled on top of me. And so with that being said, I am deciding to make this video today because I had a breakthrough with my mom, and I know a lot of people have rocky relationships with their parents. A lot of people have mother healing that they need to work on, and so this is for those people who need some mother healing, who have mother healing. A lot of people, I'm sure, have heard the terminology that you can't heal where you were hurt, and so I'm actively trying to show that that is possible. My mom and I have had a very rocky relationship, but I've always still wanted to pursue a relationship. Something within me has always known that I'm meant to heal my relationship with my mother, and so I've been pretty intentional about that, especially over the last 6 years that I've been on a self-love spiritual healing journey. And so my mom, obviously, she's a person who has gone through her own trials and tribulations, and in order for me to be willing to heal and mend our relationship so that I could have the type of relationship I want to have with my mom, and she could have the type of relationship that she wants to have with me, it takes a lot of compassion and forgiveness. And so we had an open dialogue conversation today where we kind of just, allowed ourselves to speak freely to one another about the things that bother us, the things that we want to change about our relationships, about our relationship, how we want to grow, and et cetera, et cetera. My mom's grandchildren are currently living with my mom, and I'm my mom's caregiver, so naturally I'm helping caretake for all three of them. And so we are trying to be very intentional in no longer causing generational trauma. Trauma I experienced at the hands of my mom is now trickling down to my mom's grandchildren, my brother's daughters. And so that's not something that we want to continue. We don't want to, continue generational trauma and generational curses. And so me and my mom are really working on being intentional with healing our relationship with each other and also loving ourselves in a deeper way. My mom is willing to start her own self-love journey, which is amazing. I started mine 6 years ago, and it has completely changed my life and it saved my life. And I know that any and everybody that starts a self-love journey, it will save your life and it will change your life in ways that you never thought possible. I honestly am someone who thought it was very cliche to have a self-love journey. Oh, okay, self-love's gonna help, everything's gonna fix, everything is the magic pill. And it honestly is. Because loving yourself, respecting yourself, valuing yourself, self-discipline, self-care, all those things are the foundation for all other relationships. Because if you don't have a baseline of respect for yourself, it's very hard to get a baseline of respect from somebody else. Whether you're going to accept it or whether they're going to give it. Because sometimes you may not respect yourself, but then you come across a person who wants to respect you, but you don't think you're worthy of respect because you don't respect yourself. And so everything goes back to yourself. And all the things you feel about yourself, 90% of the time, 95% of the time, come from what you experience with your parents. And so that's why I've been very intentional in trying to heal my relationship with my inner child, being the mother that I needed, and just also being willing to have the conversations I needed to have with my mom so that we could heal that, or at least open the door for that. I know some people's parents are not going to be either safe or willing. My mom was not willing at first. 6 years ago when I first started my healing journey, my spiritual journey, my mom was not on board at all. It's taken 6 years for her to be willing for us to both have an open dialogue about what's going on between us and what we think could be better so that we could have a more happy relationship that is long term. Just being honest, I don't like how you treat me, I don't like the way you talk to me. I don't like this and I don't like that. Just, it was very open. You know, my mom cried a lot of tears. You know, I had a couple emotional moments myself, but it was really just about being willing to hear the other person and have compassion. Because at the end of the day, regardless of how your parents have treated you and what they've done, they're still a person that experienced something to the degree that made them become that way. And that's not excusing their behavior. It's showing compassion. You know, being able to see my mom from my perspective of a kid who needed her mom to do X, Y, and Z, to show up for her in X, Y, and Z type of ways, and she didn't get that. And so then it trickled onto her own children. She wasn't mothered in the way she needed to be mothered, and now she couldn't show up and mother her children in the way they needed to be mothered. And I'm breaking the cycle. I would rather not have children than not be able to properly mother them. And so I don't currently have any children. I'm helping my mom, and I've always been helping take care of my nieces, my brother's daughters, but the point is that everybody is a hurt child inside. That's just what it is. You know, we have all been taught to believe certain things. We've taught what's acceptable and what's not acceptable in society, who is accepted, who is not accepted, how we should be, how should we walk, talk, act. We've been trained to be people. We are not following our true hearts, our true authentic, you know, movements, using our voices in the way that we need to. Like, we have just been, you know, manufactured to be little worker bees and whatever, just completely abandoning our authenticity, our creativity, everything that connects us to our soul and who we truly are. And so a lot of that obviously is stifled in childhood. A lot of that goes back to, you know, the things that your parents allowed you to experience and didn't allow you to experience during the first 18 years of your life. So, you know, a lot of people's trauma is linked to their parents. And so being able to understand that your parents are also people, were also children at one point, who gone through, you know, potentially terrible experiences, who didn't get the love that they needed, who didn't get the support, you know, the care, the et cetera, that they needed. And so then that in turn affected you. And again, not excusing the behavior, because at some point, like I'm doing, you have to decide, well, I don't want that anymore. I'm not going to keep perpetuating a cycle that I didn't like, that was placed upon me. And so that's what I said to my mom today. I'm like, you know, well, you have, I'm just going to use this one example. Like, my mom has a type of little superiority complex when it comes to elders, you know, and down the hierarchy list. And so I asked her, I was like, you know, I know that you obviously learned that from your parents and they learned it from their parents and so on and so forth. And so did you like when you were, you know, 18 years old, for example, and your parents didn't give you a say in anything? And she immediately was like, no. And I was like, so then why are you going to treat now your grandchild in that same manner that you didn't like being treated in? You know, and then my mom's able to be like, wow, you know, dang, you know, self-awareness, being able to see it for what it is, not get defensive about it, because she typically would get defensive about things, but just being willing to see, you know, yeah, I didn't like that. And now, you know, I'm unconsciously doing the same thing that was done to me that I never liked. Why am I unconsciously passing on patterns and habits that I didn't even like that were inflicted upon me? We don't even realize that we're doing it half the time. And so I just really wanted to create this video. I'm about to wrap it up because it's getting a little long, but I just really wanted to create this video because I know that there's a lot of people out there struggling with their relationships with their parents. And one of the things that helped me, because, you know, I experienced abandonment at the hands of both my mother and my father. And so for me to be willing to start forgiving them, you know, and doing it for myself, letting all this stuff go for myself, because holding on to all this unforgiveness and sadness and all this stuff is weighing me down. And I'm not willing to keep being weighed down behind how people decided to treat me. That's a reflection of them, not me. So I'm now at the point where I'm ready to let this stuff go, and being willing to dialogue with my mom and have that conversation was very healing and freeing for the both of us. You know, so be more willing to let things go. And if you can't, you know, have those conversations, write it down, journal about it, write a release letter, clear it from your spirit, clear it from your soul, from your mind. Let it go. Nothing is that important to just be weighing on you day in and day out, over and over and over and over for all the years of your life that you're living. Nothing is that important. It's time to let it go and focus on what you do want to bring into your life. Focus on yourself, cultivating a self-love tree. You know, that is what my page is going to be showing, my becoming of, you know, being my highest physical expression of myself. And so with that being said, Hugh has a wonderful, loving, beautiful relationship with her mother. And so that is what I am focusing on cultivating. And I have my parts to do, and my mom has her parts to do. And I just hope that whoever sees this video, you know, I hope it resonates, and I hope that, you know, you have every right to feel how you want to feel because of the way that your parents treated you. But being willing to show a little bit of compassion might help you in being able to let it go, because letting it go is ultimately for you. Yes, it helps the other person too, but it helps you more at the end of the day because you're not being weighed down anymore. But unforgiveness and all that stuff is you're holding it inside of your body. They're not keeping it in their body, and 9 times out of 10 they ain't thinking about it and they don't care. So stop holding yourself hostage because other people did you wrong. It's time to set yourself free. So with that being said, thank you for everybody who's watching. I hope this video helps you, and for all yous becoming alongside me, keep on becoming. Till next time, peace.